Hey, what's up everyone? This is SnackBox. Guys, the Fireknight tournament is live where you can only use epic champions, and as we talked about it in the Heroes Path breakdown, you can get one of these keys in here, which is actually pretty nice because you can save on like 9,300 points, which is equivalent to 2 sacred shards, a little bit more, and I'm gonna show you a very budget-friendly way to complete this tournament. So, stage 20 Fireknight, here we go. This is the team that I came up with, pretty standard to be honest, and pretty old school. We have Alure in here for turn meter reduction, we have Royal Guard as the lead position with the only aura that would be active in a dungeon, which increases the ally attack. Does help a little bit with the damage. We have Stag Knight for the decreased defense. We have Fahrakin for the ally attack and Magnarr to nuke the waves. Alright, let's jump into the run. I tried to use decent gear, but not my best gear, so the stats and artifacts are more relatable to a lot of players, because obviously not everyone can hit crazy stats. And I think the way that I build the champions here in this team, a lot of people can do this. So basically the way it works is that we have Stag Knight that is debuffing the waves and Magnarr is there to nuke them. Obviously we have Alure for turn meter reduction for the boss and the waves, and it gets a little bit close to, you know, for Alure to be killed, but she will survive. And there we go, with the ally attack we instantly remove the shield, and now Alure will basically keep down the turn meter, and Royal Guard will do massive amounts of damage with the max HP hit. You can theoretically use Husk as well here for the max HP damage, that would work too, but I think Royal Guard overall is just better because he has the A3 which is a free hitter, and he can place decreased speed on it too. You don't really need to place it with Royal Guard, as Stag Knight has his A1 that does place decreased speed as well. Yeah, so maybe you could use Husk instead of Royal Guard, for example. Or theoretically just a second Alure would work too. It would take a little bit longer because you would miss out on that max HP damage, but as you can see, 1 minute 20 seconds, decent I would say. Let's run it one more time. So Stag Knight opens up with the debuffing, then we get the turn meter control from Alure, the A2 from Magnarr and Royal Guard, and we finish off the waves. And now it's basically just cycling back the cooldowns. We also save up the A2 from Alure for the second wave, so she can put some decrease defenses up. And then basically we just wait for Magnarr to get that AoE attack back. There we go. And we finish off the second wave. You can definitely build Magnarr with enough damage to nuke those waves with one AoE attack. But as I said, I'm not using the best gear I have on him because I wanted to make it more relatable. And then as soon as the decreased speed landed on the Fireknight, it's basically a wrap. Another thing that can happen is that Royal Guard can weak hit with his max HP damage skill, and that will slow down the run a little bit, but I think overall a minute 20 or something like that is pretty reasonable, and you can, you know, get the key for the Hero's Path in no time. The good thing about stage 20 is that it costs only 16 energy, so this is probably the cheapest way to complete this tournament in terms of energy. If you want to do hard stages, I don't know how high you can get here, but I think for stage 10 you need really crazy gear, and it will take a lot of time. I think you can do some of the lower stages pretty easy if you have the right champions with, for example, Neldor and Creodan or whatever his name is. All those epic champions that can put out freeze, and yeah, that way you could farm the hard stages and get also your hands on some nice artifacts. Because keep in mind, it's a free X on Savage artifacts, and that is actually pretty good. A very nice time to farm Fireknight. So if you can farm the hard stages, definitely do that, even if it's like stage 6 or stage 3 or whatever, because the artifacts are more important. If you can hit a mythical Savage piece, it can definitely change your account. But if you wanna, you know, save resources and go the route that is the cheapest, go and farm stage 20. And here are my builds. So Alure is in 2 perception sets and a divine speed set. Basically, I just put whatever gear on her that I had. I'm not even using a ring, which I could probably, to give her a little bit more survivability, and she would survive the waves. And no banner too, so she's at 234 speed, 104% crit rate. This is very important to be at 100% because I'm going to show you the kit in a second. It's really important to have the crit rate on her. Crit damage doesn't really matter. If you can pump it up, you know, damage is always good. More damage is always nice to have. And you need accuracy. This is way too much accuracy, by the way. You only need like 220, 250. If you can hit like 250, then you're in a really good spot. I don't have any relic on her, but you could definitely use something like Tempus Sanguinis, because it's increasing the turn meter reduction effects by 15%, which helps to keep the turn meter down from the Fireknight. And then she's completely booked, of course, and here's the A1. And this is why it's so important to have crit rate on her, because the A1 decreases the turn meter by 25% on each critical hit, and she hits for 3 times. So theoretically, if you crit with all 3 hits, you will decrease the turn meter by 75%. And this is really huge. What can happen on stage 20 is that you weak hit, because Allure is magic affinity, and the Fireknight on stage 20 is force affinity. So that's something that can happen, but most of the time you will decrease the turn meter enough, just if you just hit for once, so you can, you know, keep the turn meter down. For masteries, I went with Giant Slayer because I want her to use the A1 only on the Fireknight, and that way I can maximize her damage. For Fahrakin, I have him in a Merciless set, which is not really needed. I also took off the weapon, so the speed comes down a little bit. It doesn't really matter what sets or whatever he has, he just needs to have like a decent amount of speed and a little bit of survivability, so it doesn't get one shot on the waves. He's at 231 speed, crit rate, crit damage doesn't matter, and accuracy is way too high. As I said, aim for like 220, 250. That would be ideal, because he can place, you know, HP burns and poisons on the A2 and the decreased defense on the A1. The poisons and HP burns are not that important, because your goal is to never let the Fireknight take a turn, basically, with Allure. So this is kind of a safety extra damage in case he takes a turn again. But the most important part about him is the ally attack, of course, and he buffs also crit rate, so that is actually pretty huge. Technically, you could build your other champions with like 30% less crit rate, but I would keep the crit rate at 100% anyway, because you're not always using Fahrakin in combination with the other champions. For masteries, you could also go with War Master to maximize the damage. The Eagle Eye mastery here for extra accuracy is not really needed for this. This is just for different content. Then Royal Guard is in a Savage set. Basically, he's at 171 speed, 4550 attack, 102% crit rate, very important, and 270% crit damage. Also, you want a decent chunk of accuracy on him. As I said, like for every champion, it's basically the goal to have like 220, 250 accuracy if he needs to place the debuffs, right? For him, he doesn't really need to place the debuffs, but it definitely helps, especially when you're trying to keep the turn meter down, and the A3 does hit for 4 times, and each hit has a 75% chance of placing a big version of decreased speed, so this helps a lot. And each hit also has a 75% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 25%. So basically, with the turn meter decrease, it's similar to the A1 of Alure. The difference is that it's a 4 hitter and a 4 turn cooldown skill. That is basically the difference, and it can place the decreased speed, but overall it helps to control the turn meter. All the champions are completely booked. You definitely want to book the A2 of Royal Guard because you get an extra 20% damage, and also the attack does matter a little bit to push the damage, but it is not super necessary. For masteries, I went with War Master. You could technically go with Helm Smasher or Flawless Execution on stage 20. War Master is what you would use for hard stages, because there the max HP damage is capped. Then we have Stag Knight, also in 2 sets of perception and 1 speed set. I also removed the banner to get the stats down a little bit. 75k HP, 258 speed. Technically you could make Allure your fastest, so you have, you know, more chances to get the turn meter reduction down. But in this case, how I built it, Stag Knight is the fastest, and also the accuracy a little bit of an overkill. No relic. I don't use any relics on any of these champions actually, and I have commanding presence on him, which I could technically change to like Phantom Touch, for example, to get, you know, an extra hit on the shield, but it's not really necessary. I could change it to something else though, because Fahrakin already has commanding presence. And then for the masteries, I went with War Master, Master Hexa to increase the duration of the debuffs. Sniper is really cool to increase the chances of placing any debuff from skills or artifacts by 5%. And this is pretty nice for his A1 because it has a 50% chance of placing a decreased speed. It's a 2-hitter, so you have 2 times the chance of 50% to place it. And with Sniper, you have a 55% chance, and then it's most of the time gonna place. Then we have Magnarr here, also in a Savage set and a crit damage set. I got him at like 77k HP, which he scales damage from, 227 speed, 114% crit rate, and 239% crit damage. This is not ideal. Ideally, you want to be lower with the crit rate and higher with the crit damage. But the reason for that is that I went with crit rate gauntlets. As you can see, if you use crit damage gauntlets, you can definitely push his damage way higher. Then I have no relic on him. He's also completely booked, has a 4-star soul, and I use the Crushing Rend Blessing, and that way he gets a little bit more defense ignore. And for masteries, I went with Helm Smasher. So I actually put a ring on Allure now, just to give her a little bit more HP and defense. And now she's sitting at 45,000 HP and 2k defense, and that way she will definitely survive the waves. So let's run it one more time. And the only thing I would change here probably would be the crit damage of Magnarr, just so he can one-shot the waves. As you can see, there's like a little bit of damage that is missing. He has the right affinity, so theoretically you could build him with 85% crit rate instead of 100%, because for strong affinity he has an additional 15% crit rate. But yeah, other than that, I think the builds are pretty accurate. Of course, some of them have like too much accuracy, but you don't need that much. You can definitely go lower with that. Yeah, as soon as we get to the boss, it's there's no way that the Fireknight's gonna get the turn, as you can see. Also, another thing is the mastery that decreases the turn meter. I think it's Evil Eye. is really helpful because with the ally attack it will proc on everybody, right? So that also decreases the turn meter by a lot. And as you can see, Alure is keeping down the turn meter perfectly. And there we go, 1 minute 24 seconds, 47 turns. I'm pretty sure we could get the time down to like 1 minute if we would have enough damage with Magnarr. So yeah, 2,750 points is what you need for the key. Pretty standard, the last milestone in terms of points. The other rewards are pretty meh. Basically the same what you got for the other Epic Only Champions tournament for the Dragon. 30 Primal Quartz is not a lot, but hey, we'll take it, right? The only thing that really matters in here is the key. So if you get this key for like 2,800 energy is what it will cost if you run stage 20. On the hard stages it will cost you more energy, more like 3k, something like that. This will basically save you 9,300 points, which is equivalent to a little bit more than 2 sacred shards for the hero's path. So you could basically skip one of the keys on the sides, which are more expensive than the ones in the middle lane. Also, another thing that is not really clear and some people already noticed. So basically, if you go down the middle lane and you plan on getting the 3-star perfect soul, choose wisely which path you go, because if you go down, let's say the right side from the middle lane and you hit the energy here and then you want to get the avatar frame, you can't jump over and get this immortal soul stone because those paths are not really connected. Yes, it looks like it is connected, but the way it is actually, it stops here with the avatar frame. So this is basically one path right here, right down from the energy to the essence and to the chaos powder and then to the soul. I think some players will be upset about this because it really looks like you can jump from the energy here to this immortal soul stone, or from the gemstone, from the gems here to the essences. Me personally, I would take the gems because they are worth more than 750 energy, and then the immortal soul stone is pretty much equivalent to the 20 essences. I don't know what you would value more, but I think the immortal soul stone for me personally is worth more. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you learned something, I hope you enjoyed, and like always, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up, and see you in the next video.